So Sarah Silverman is one of the dumbest humans on planet Earth. She's this comedian who has made her fortune from basically doing the little girl voice and saying super dirty things. That's basically what Sarah Silverman does. Her whole shtick is, I'm going to say super vulgar things, but I'm going to do it in a little girly voice. Isn't it funny? Ha, ha, ha. Well, she also happens to be just an absolute dumbass around politics. And so here's what she tweeted this out the other day. Walking to get coffee, saw these all over a sidewalk in the town I'm in. Is this an attempt at swastikas? Do neo-Nazis not have Google? Okay, and what the picture actually shows, if you can't see it, is it looks like an S with a line through it. Right? That's what it looks like. Okay, so for people who are utterly ignorant, this looks like a swastika. For people who are not utterly ignorant, it looks nothing like a swastika. You know what that actually is? It's a construction mark. It's an actual construction mark. So if you walk around any major city, you will see that mark all over the sidewalk because it's supposed to designate a spot for where there's a pipe or a wire underneath, apparently. Right? That's what it means. But she thinks that people are spray painting swastikas, and then she wonders why people don't take her seriously about politics. It's probably because of that, you stupid idiot. Again, it's hard enough to fight anti-Semitism without people making up instances of anti-Semitism to fight. And I'm sorry, but you walking past a surveying mark on the sidewalk, that's not a sign of neo-Nazis out to get you, Sarah Silverman, you stupid, stupid, stupid human. Miley Cyrus, I kind of hate this and I kind of love it because for a weird reason. So Miley Cyrus came out yesterday and she said that she is a genderless, ageless, speciesless being. Here's what she had to say.
I'm laughing when you say you're a bit weird. How do you think you're weird?
I'm weird because of many reasons. I think hopefully this will become the new normal too. I think I'm weird because I feel like everything and nothing and all at once. And if this doesn't make sense, I mean that I feel very like genderless, I feel ageless, I feel like I'm just like spirit, soul, not even divided by human being, or I treat the animals the same, or hopefully treat the planet with as much respect as possible. So I feel very much like there's no us and them, there's no me and you. I feel like I'm kind of just, I want to be everything, and I want to be also kind of nothing. You know, I just want to be able to be myself. And so hopefully that stops being weird.
Well, okay, so it's never going to stop being weird because you are, in fact, a 24-year-old. I mean, she says she's bisexual, but she's essentially a 24-year-old straight white female. I mean, that's really what she is. She's about to get married to Liam Hemsworth, but she's a 24-year-old. At least maybe she's bisexual. I don't care. It doesn't make any difference to me. But at least in her actions, she is currently straight, and she is or she's acting in straight fashion, shall we say? I don't want to talk about her desires or orientations. In any case, the idea that she's a genderless, ageless, speciesless being. No, you're a human being who's a female who is 24 years old. One of the things that I like about this, though, is it does demonstrate that for people who have no moral grounding at all, they think that the only way to get along with other people is to give up your identity. The only way to get along with everyone else and to have a society that works is for you not to be a separate human being. It's for you to merge with everything, to have no standards at all, no distinctions. Distinctions don't matter at all. Distinctions are useless. Now, the religious person says, listen, distinctions are important and meaningful. They exist in nature. Miley Cyrus is a 24-year-old white female. But what we have in common is that we are all creatures of God. And that's a much more factual distinction. That is a much more interesting. It makes life interesting. It makes life worth living. Our differences are interesting and good. You know, the sort of attempt to wipe out all difference is basically the same as the attempt to treat humanity as a mold of clay that you can just break apart into various pieces, reshape, mold it back together. It gets rid of individual rights to treat people as non-individuals. Ironically, what she's saying about being an individual is actually the opposite. She's saying she's everything. If she's everything, everything is her, and that means that there is no her, right? She doesn't exist. And that is not something that I think even the left wants. So if you want unity with other human beings, then the way to find unity with other human beings is living by a godly standard and understanding that we are all creatures of God. It is not to give up your own identity or to pretend that nature and distinctions don't exist. Okay, Eminem, who also appears to be basically Mike Pence. He's sort of turned into Mike Pence. When he takes off that hat, he's got the white hair and their hair, they look identical. Eminem, in an attempt to seek relevance, has decided to alienate half of his audience by suggesting that President Trump is evil, and he did a freestyle rap to this effect at the Black Entertainment Television. Heard that this man is akin to Beethoven. This is only Beethoven after he had suffered from lead poisoning, presumably. even then, Beethoven was still writing Good Stuff Deaf and Poisoned by Lead. I'm pretty sure that's not equivalent. He's a genius because he can come up with a bunch of near rhymes for the word pot. Congratulations, this is just genius stuff. I also like that cultural appropriation is fine so long as you're a leftist who hates Trump, right? So he's culturally appropriating a lot of obvious, black rap culture here. Clearly, I mean, this has been Eminem's shtick for a very long time. And then he can use phrases like this. Now I got a hatchet like a damn Apache would a tomahawk. Totally fine, right? No cultural appropriation there. Nothing insulting there, right? That's not insulting in any way, but that's just because he is just a genius leftist who hates President Trump. HBO's John Oliver belongs to a class of British people who think that they are smarter than everyone else by dint of their accent. They think that because they share an accent with Rex Harrison from My Fair Lady, this makes them geniuses. So John Oliver does a political show on American politics. He doesn't know much about American politics. He doesn't know much about politics generally, but he's been feeded by the media because he's a comedian who's wildly to the left. So just like President Obama is going to be interviewed by Samantha Bee, who's legitimately the least funny person in human history, she and Trevor Noah actually have a cage match next week to determine who's the least funny person in human history. Both of them, I believe, beat Stalin for that title a while back. So now that we're going to unify the championships. So Obama's going to be on with Samantha Bee, where presumably they will jabber about how much they love each other and why abortion's wonderful. John Oliver was ripping on Donald Trump the other days at some awards ceremony, and because he's British, that means we're supposed to pay attention to him, even though we fought a revolution, so we wouldn't have to pay attention to the Brits. Here's John Oliver talking about abortion.
And in terms of the communication about reproductive rights and the conversation that is so important, we really did potentially hit a nadir in the modern era during that third debate, because his discussion of late-term abortions showed no real understanding of how abortions work, no clear understanding of the basic biology of women's bodies, and a very poor sense of grammar as well. So I guess we got, in a sense, what we were asking for. If you asked Donald Trump to draw a fallopian tube, I cannot imagine what you would get back other than a child's drawing of a cobra.
Okay, and I would hesitate to ask John Oliver to draw a fallopian tube or describe any of the biology here because he obviously doesn't know. Now, look, I criticize Trump for being ignorant about how he described abortion because he wasn't graphic enough. But let me, for those who missed it, explain what exactly happens in a late-term abortion, which is what he was talking about, okay? What happens in a late-term abortion is something completely awful. This is according to AmericanPregnancy.org, okay? Not a right-wing pro-life website, AmericanPregnancy.org. Quote, "The fetus is rotated. Forceps are used to grasp and pull the legs, shoulders, and arms through the birth canal. A small incision is made at the base of the skull to allow a suction catheter inside. The catheter removes the cerebral material, that would be the brains, until the skull collapses. The fetus is then completely removed." Okay, that's one procedure that's used. That's dilation and extraction. Okay, in late-term abortions, it's usually one of these two, dilation and evacuation or dilation and extraction. Dilation and evacuation, the baby may be given a lethal injection to kill it. Sometimes they don't use such injections. Then the doctor uses a curette or a forceps to carve up the child's body in the womb and remove it piece by piece. So I guess that Donald Trump could have been more graphic. I don't know that John Oliver would have enjoyed that, but he could have been more graphic, I suppose. But this is what they do. They laugh it off. Oh, he can't draw a fallopian tube. Okay, John, draw an abortion. Really, draw it. Let's see it. I want to see you get down there with a piece of paper, and I want you to draw me what you think an abortion looks like. And it's not waving a magic wand, and it's not getting rid of a cluster of cells that mean nothing. I want you to sit there and draw what it looks like when a baby is cut into pieces and removed from the womb. I would like to see that. But of course, he'll never do that, other than it might look like a cobra. It might look like a cobra. Maybe it'll look like a princess waving her fairy magic wand, and a unicorn emerges from the vagina. The fact that he thinks his accent covers for his basic ignorance of biology and his euphemistic willingness to ignore what amounts to child killing is absolutely ridiculous and despicable. Kristen Bell is seen by many. She's in Veronica Mars, correct? So there are a lot of Veronica Mars fans out there. I never watched the show. I don't know if it's any good. She's the voice of one of the characters in Frozen. So naturally, that means she likes killing babies. Because if you do a children's movie, that means that you like killing babies, apparently. So Kristen Bell has now done a new video in which she talks about motherhood and the pay gap. And also, she's a big Planned Parenthood advocate. It's just so obnoxious. She did this for Huffington Post, which...
Is your company looking to maximize their output while cutting back on costs? Why outsource all your production to faraway countries like India, China, and Narnia when we have the cheapest and best workforce right here in the good old US of A? Women. That's right. With Pink sourcing, women are a bargain at the workplace since you only have to pay them 77 cents on the dollar. Right, Kathy?
Wait, what? I make 60 cents. Who are you, Bill Gates?
¿De qué? I make 55 cents. Who is she, Yeezy?
No, come on. Those are men. Even more importantly, you don't have to pay women overtime. They'll never ask for a raise, and they don't complain about their working conditions. Right, Kathy? Don't forget, women are great at remembering birthdays. They're the only ones who bring baked goods into the office, and they smell nice. Also, you don't have to pay for women's birth control. And if they do get knocked up, when they leave to have the baby, you get off scot-free. But don't worry, guys. Your boner pills are still covered.
Okay, oh my God, okay. Was this supposed to be funny? I guess there was supposed to be humor here, but if when the left gets political, it's really, really, really not funny. So this is super not funny. There's so much that's a lie here. First of all, I just want to point one thing out. Kristen Bell's net worth as of 2015 is $16 million. $16 million. So clearly she's being disadvantaged by the great bias against women in the workplace. As far as the idea that employers are interested in their employees, in their female employees, getting pregnant and then taking time off so we don't have to pay for them, no. Because when they take the time off, we lose money. We have to hire a replacement, right? When that replacement means you have to train up the replacement. And by the way, why is it she talks about Viagra being covered. Okay, I don't remember the last time that condoms were covered by any sort of healthcare program. I missed that part. Right, so the whole thing is this is all insipid, and she continues along these lines, and she talks about how women are really disadvantaged, and it's pink sourcing. But what's funny about this is that what she doesn't understand is that she's actually making the case against herself, because if this actually existed, if everything she was saying were true, companies would actually do this, wouldn't they? Right? I mean, companies are evil, right? This is her implication. Companies are evil, and they hate women. But if this were true, if they could pay women less, if they could disadvantage women, if they didn't give them birth control and then they get pregnant, we throw them out on the street and we beat them and all this nonsense. If that were true, there would be a company actually called Pink Sourcing, and companies would call that company to hire all the women so that they could pay them nothing. Is there a company called Pink Sourcing? No, she has to make a satire company called Pink Sourcing. It doesn't exist, gang. And the reason it doesn't exist is because in the largest cities in America, the women who have the same qualifications and the same marital status as men are paid more than men in the top 50 cities in the United States, according to Time Magazine circa 2010. Okay, so but facts have no relation to reality, where Kristen Bell comes from, victim that Kristen Bell is. But again, what people in Hollywood get from all of this is this tremendous feeling of moral superiority that cannot be overcome. And that's because the person at issue is Ellen DeGeneres, and Ellen DeGeneres is a famous and well-beloved Hollywood lesbian. So the reason that is relevant, her sexuality, is because Ellen DeGeneres tweeted this out yesterday. This is a tweet of her on Katy Perry's birthday, and it's a picture of Ellen DeGeneres staring directly into Katy Perry's cleavage from about 6 inches away as her partner Portia de Rossi laughs next to her. I think it's Portia de Rossi, correct? I'm pretty sure. And Katy Perry is kind of smiling into the camera slightly awkwardly. And it says, "Happy birthday, Katy Perry. It's time to bring out the big balloons," right? A direct reference to her breasts. Now, let me just suggest, if any man tweeted out this exact photo, if Ellen's head were Harvey Weinstein's head, we would be talking about how this was more evidence of sexual harassment in Hollywood. Ellen DeGeneres is a very, very powerful host. And the fact that Katy Perry seems to be smiling here is not the issue, right? I mean, there are plenty of pictures where Harvey Weinstein is posing with smiling women who he sexually harassed or sexually assaulted. The fact is that there's a double standard with how we treat these situations. And as I've been now saying for weeks, we need some sort of singular standard as to what constitutes appropriate behavior and what does not. Ellen DeGeneres is a lesbian, which means that this is, her acting upon objects of her sexual desire. If a man did the same thing, we would be saying, this is totally inappropriate, how dare he? And it doesn't matter that Katy Perry's smiling, it just shows how toxic masculinity has infused everyone. The whole point here is the double standard. And the double standard applies everywhere. Mark Halperin just was essentially fired from NBC News. He said he resigned or took time off to spend more time with his genitals. But in any case, Mark Halperin, the accusations are that he allegedly sexually assaulted up to 5 women, sexually harassed or assaulted up to 5 women, that he would push them up against the wall, grope them, press his genitals against them. This is Mark Halperin, the guy who wrote Game Change, very famous reporter. He's on NBC News every day, has talked about sexual assault in the most indignant of terms. Sexual assault is horrible. Sexual harassment is horrible. And then meanwhile, in the back room, he's grabbing the interns, apparently. This goes to show you also the not only do we have a double standard with regard to people we like, we have a double standard with regard to ourselves. The stuff that we do, we human beings have a unique capacity to do this. We can engage in many of the sins that we condemn other people for, and the mark of a good human being is that you think enough about this to think whether, in fact, you are upholding the standard that you seek to promulgate, that you're upholding the standard that you seek to push. If you're not doing that, then we all need to do better, and I think we can all do better on these scores. But the reason I'm pointing out these 3 differing scenarios, the HW, the Ellen DeGeneres, and the Mark Halperin situations, is because these double standards have been in place for a very long time, and we need to decide as a society what sort of behavior we are willing to accept. I think the behavior should be this. Men do not touch women without their permission. That's the behavior. Right? We're done here. And it's not the same thing if a man asks out a girl to a bar. It's not the same thing if a man says that a girl is beautiful today. It's not the same thing if a man says that he likes a girl's dress, a woman's dress. Not the same thing at all. We need to make some actual separations here. But instead, what I feel like this has devolved into is now we're just, as usual, conversations in America devolve into who's the victim today. But yesterday, there was a video of Katy Perry talking with some talk show host about the Manchester massacre, and here's what she had to say.
I think that the greatest thing we can do is just unite and love on each other, and like no barriers, no borders. Like we all need to just coexist.
Okay, it's very hard to coexist with people who want to murder you. So some people were saying she was saying this about the fan base between Ariana Grande's fan base, because this happened at an Ariana Grande concert, and Katy Perry's fan base. Okay, first of all, if your chief concern in the aftermath of a terrorist attack is the coming together of 2 pop star fan bases, I'm going to go with you're slightly myopic. If she means that the entire world needs to have no borders, no barriers, Katy Perry owns a $19 million house in Los Angeles with a giant barrier all around it. Why? Because she can't even trust the paparazzi not to come into her yard, let alone Islamic extremists. So the idea that we can all just get together and be friends, and if we're just kinder and gentler to one another, that if we just live our lives and be nice to one another, that this is going to fix things, it's actually sort of disrespectful to Islamic terrorists. And what I mean by that is they don't deserve respect, obviously, but it's implying that they're just a bunch of vacillating dweebs who will just switch away from Islamic terrorism the minute that we're nice to them. Like if we had offered them free Ariana Grande tickets, then maybe they wouldn't have bombed the place. Okay, this is just silliness. Obviously, there is a mode of thought that suggests that the West is evil and needs to be destroyed. Mark Stein has a really good piece on this today over at Stein Online, where he talks about the fact that you are seeing the West begin to crawl into its turtle shell in an attempt to avoid pissing off some of the worst people on Earth. So you remember when Charlie Hebdo was attacked. Right before Charlie Hebdo was attacked, there were a bunch of people in the West who said it was terrible that Charlie Hebdo was making fun of radical Muslims. Now, I disagreed with some of the material in Charlie Hebdo, but they have every right to do that, and it's good that publications like Charlie Hebdo exist, even though I really disagreed with it. You know, the same thing is true with Ariana Grande. We here on the program, we've deconstructed culture with Ariana Grande. I don't like a lot of the messages of her songs. I think that she's contributing to a pop culture that isn't very good, but that said, I'm glad that people like Ariana Grande are allowed to perform however people like Ariana Grande want to perform. You know, if parents think that her shtick is not appropriate for their kids, I'm in agreement. But that's not the same thing as what the Islamic radicals would do, which is create a society where Ariana Grande was not allowed to do any of these things, where they would restrict by governmental fiat all of this, where they would whip Ariana Grande, beat Ariana Grande, kill the people who listen to Ariana Grande. This idea that we can all coexist, that bumper sticker is the dumbest bumper sticker in the world. It's such a dumb bumper sticker because the fact is that only some of the people on that bumper sticker actually wish to coexist. Other people's on that bumper sticker wish not to coexist. Okay, there's a Jewish star on the coexist bumper sticker, and there's an Islamic crescent on the bumper sticker. Okay, there are 1.2 million Muslims living inside Israel. There are Muslim MKs living inside Israel, members of Knesset living inside Israel. There's a Muslim Supreme Court judge inside Israel, I think 2 of them now. You know, the fact is that there are 0 Jews living in Saudi Arabia, and they barred Israeli Jewish journalists from even coming into the country. Is that coexistence? Now, the idea that the Judeo-Christian society is in just a question of coexistence with the Islamic radicals is absolutely asinine. And it's also asinine to pretend that there are very few of these people, because the fact is there may be very few people who are willing to commit terror. There are a hell of a lot of people who are willing to cheer them on, and that's a very frightening prospect with which we ought to that we ought to take certainly very seriously. It's such foolishness, and again, this is why people don't trust Hillary. Remember, Katy Perry, was the person who was stumping for Hillary Clinton. Katy Perry was an acolyte of Hillary Clinton's. Katy Perry was somebody who was out there pushing for Hillary Clinton for president of the United States, wearing the Obama dress, wearing the Hillary Clinton dress. She is considered a respected voice in the left-wing movement. That voice, that's not somebody you're going to trust with national security. Other things that I hate. So Stephen Colbert did an entire shtick yesterday because Donald Trump Jr. put out a tweet. And the tweet that Donald Trump Jr. Put out was a tweet of his daughter, and he said that he was telling her that he was going to take half her candy on Halloween to teach her what socialism was. Okay, kind of funny. And Stephen Colbert goes after Donald Trump Jr., as Stephen Colbert is apt to do.
Last night, Don Jr. tweeted a picture of his young daughter holding her candy bucket and said, "I'm going to take half of her candy tonight and give it to some kid who sat at home. It's never too early to teach her about socialism." Yes, it's never too early to teach kids the danger of sharing. On Halloween, kids literally go door to door to get free candy from the neighbors because the kids don't have it.